Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a midweek show of Round the Clock Cricket with me, Rahul. And I have, as usual, Sudeep, Amit, and Ayan with me. Tonight, we have a popular show, a demand show rather, of all the experts, including myself, where we decide to intersect, dissect, bisect, and all sects. We cross sect also one of the greats of Indian cricket who's just hung his boots. Guess you were right. We are talking about Cheteshwar Pujara, one of the great one-downs of India, following in the boots of the great Rahul Dravid. For the next 40-45 minutes, we're going to talk about Pujara and his contribution to Indian cricket, world cricket. And we will also find out that what his contribution was to a very successful Virat Kohli as a captain. During that phase of 14 to 19, when Kohli almost won everything as a skipper, what was Pujara's contribution? To talk about it, we'll have now start off with Ayan Banerjee, our expert. And Ayan, my first question to you is, Pujara, average of 43.6, he was undone in the last couple of years by his performance in the World WTC 21-23 cycle. In the end of that cycle, he was undone. His average for the most part of his career was around 47, 48. So 49 of his 165 dismissals. Can we have the dismissal by innings, the first one? Sudeep, can we have the dismissal by innings? Yeah, yeah. Can you hear it from the up? Yeah. So 49 of his 165, which is about roughly 28%. 27% of his dismissals have come from Lyon, Anderson, Cummins, Hazlewood, Bolt, and Broad. So 49 out of 165 of his dismissals have come from 6 top bowlers: Lyon, Anderson, Cummins, Hazlewood, Bolt, Broad. Yet he has been, if we call him that also, that he's Lyon's bunny or Anderson's bunny, he has been able to garner a very solid average, and he finishes off at 7,000 plus test runs, 100 plus tests. Your take on Pujara against big bowlers, Ayan? My first question. Against big bowlers, Pujara.
Yeah, so very clearly, he has been dismissed the most number of times by the best bowlers of the world of cricket when he played the game. Very clearly. I mean, Leon, Anderson, Cummins, Hazelwood, Bolt, Broad, these were the bowlers of the world during the time that and very clearly he was, when he was out to the best. So one thing that I find interesting is he was dismissed by Leon so many times. Ethan, Leon dismissing him 13 times. That does show a little bit of maybe some, I mean, I wouldn't say bunny really, because Anderson dismissed him 12 times, and Anderson and Leon are very different type of bowlers. But certainly for
look at
off
the
spin,
also look at the nature of dismissals. He was bowled thrice, caught 7 times.
Yeah,
And
so
he's
that
bold,
I will
bold and
talk
caught.
about separately.
Yeah, bold, caught, and caught behind, which we'll of course
So
discuss the next question. So he's
that
bold has been a lot in his career.
Yeah. So
So what
so
is his
do you
take on
want me
that?
to answer that? So see, very
Yeah,
clearly what I'm seeing is that Leon has had him many times, which
yeah.
does
So
sort of
if you answer that,
show.
then the second question also you are answering
Yeah.
together.
So
That he has been
basically,
the bold 130 times. He has
right,
been
right,
bold, caught, and
right,
caught
right,
behind. So
right, right, right.
for
So
my question then is, for a man of his caliber, when you're
yeah.
talking about one
So
of the great behemoths of Indian cricket and world cricket,
Mhm.
why
Mhm.
so many times bold and caught
Yeah.
behind?
So I will just
Was that a
talk about
failure?
that,
Was that
but
a failure? Yeah.
no.
One and two.
That is where there are some very interesting stats about that. So one thing is that it is somewhat apparent that off spin was a bit of an issue, because but then off spin is something that Indian batsmen historically have had problems. Saklain, Murali, even Saeed Ajmal, Swan, all of them have had, have caused trouble to Indian batsmen. So that Pujara has also not been so much of an exception. But regarding that statistics of bold caught, being the maximal modes of dismissal, this I can tell you is very interesting. I was looking at the modes of dismissals of different batsmen, great batsmen during Pujara's time as well as earlier. So you will, I don't know whether you will believe this, but other batsmen who have also been bowled and caught the most number of times are Gavaskar, Mohinder Amarnath, Gunnappa Vishwanath, VVS Lakshman, Rahul Dravid, and in this current Indian team, KL Rahul. the other batsmen, such as Kohli, Tendulkar, for them, LBW has been more than bowled. So that tells you that Pujara is one of the classicists of among batsmen, and he does not play with bat pad together. He does not play with pad before bat. He actually plays bat before pad. Against spin bowlers, he does not offer the pad as a first line of defense. What I found incredible is Kohli has far more dismissals LBW than bowled, and remarkably so has Tendulkar. So you know that. So caught is every single batsman in the world worth his salt. Have been dismissed caught the maximum number of times, but bowled more than LBW means you play. Your motivation is to hit the ball. For example, Vichy has been dismissed, bowled many more number of times than LBW. Okay, and so for him, in fact, one of the the first times that Gavaskar wrote in Idols, when Vichy's brilliance was first noticed by Pataudi in 1969, was when he was in a match again, I think the Dalip Trophy, which was bouncing like anything. And I think Salgaonkar was one of the bowlers of Bombay, and the pitch was really it was a sort of horror story type of pitch at the Chipok. Vichy was leaving balls on length, not on line. Okay, so he gauged the bounce of the pitch so well that he just left the ball. And Vishwanath was again somebody who did not play with the pad as the first line of defense. Pujara and Dravid are the ones, as well as Lakshman, I thought. Saurav Ganguly, by the way, has been LBW. Just, I think he's also less LBW, but it's only 2 or 3 times. He's almost same bowled as LBW. But Dravid, Pujara, and Lakshman, all of them are bowled more times than LBW. So they either hit the ball. If the ball is too good, then they miss the ball. They do not play with the pad as a line of defense, and as a
So,
result, so that is something which I noticed
so
in the
your
case of
take, Ayon,
almost all
is
classicists.
with the top bowlers. So Pujara, as a classical batsman that we are discussing, is an
Yeah.
exception. Is an
Yes.
exception in terms of the dismissals.
No, not
So
exception. No, not exception. All the
no,
classical
I'm
batsmen
no,
are
I'm talking
actually
of
more
I'm talking of
bowled than
bold. I'm talking
LBW.
of bold and caught behind. Bold and
Yeah.
caught
Yeah.
behind.
So all
Okay.
of them are that. All classical
Okay.
batsmen are more bowled and caught behind
Yeah,
than
this is an
LBW.
interesting slide by Sudeep, where you see that he's been bowled 30 times, which is
Yes.
18%. He's been
Yes.
caught 62, which is 37%, and
That
caught
is
behind is
just
20. So out
what
of 165, is 100 times caught and caught behind
that
and
is
bowled.
what I'm
So
saying
yeah,
is the same for Gavaskar, Vishwanath, Lakshman, Dravid, Mohinder Amarnath, and KL Rahul as well. They are the maximum times of their careers, they are out bowled and caught, not LBW.
and this
That's
is
what I'm
because
trying to say.
they play off the front foot mainly.
No, they have the bat before the pad. Okay, so they don't have
Okay,
offer the pad as a. So Virat Kohli has this pronounced shuffle. See, he
okay,
moves to the off stump,
that's an interesting observation. So you're
and
saying,
he often misses the ball, which hits the pad, and he's out LBW. For Pujara and Izil, the classicists of Indian cricket, they offer the bat as they go behind the ball, they play with the bat. Against spin bowlers, they don't play with the pad first. They go with bat together. So I remember against, in Pujara's classic
so,
battles against Leon,
to
he
sum
played
it
with the
up.
bat there.
So sum it up, the other bowlers which he got out are all pacers, but only
Yes.
Leo being the spinner. So you think against Leo he was found wanting? Was he
Somewhat.
found wanting?
That again, Rahul, Indian batsmen against off spinners. Indian batsmen have had fantastic times against leg spinners. Shane Warne has had his worst average of his career against India.
Correct, correct.
No leg spinner worth his salt. Kader, Mustaq Ahmed, Kaneria. Afridi was somewhat successful in one test at Bangalore, where the pitch had become quite monstrous in the fourth innings. But off
Correct.
spinners, classically Indian batsmen, have always had problems. Even if you look at, I was looking at Kohli. Kohli is also the maximum 2 times the bowlers who dismissed him are the same, Leon and Anderson. Okay, so
Thank
these
you.
have been India's main, predators during the time that the last decade.
Thank you so much, Aryan. A good observation. Thank you. Moving to Amit now. Amit, your question is a little complicated because we are going to dissect Pujara now, the greatness of Pujara. So Pujara, if you move to Sudeep, you can move to his performance in the Sena countries. And by opponent and by countries, we see that his performance in Sena countries In Sena countries, against Sena country is much, much, uh, this one and the next one, and the next to next one, I think. The performance in the country. Performance by opponent and performance in country. Performance in country. Yes, this too. Performance opponent. So you can see that except for the 2018-19 series where he scored 521 on Amit, Pujara's performance, you can see the average very, very clearly says he has been found wanting. Except that 521, if you take out his average, it come down to 30s. And his average in New Zealand and South Africa, although the sample size is small, has been the average is 50, 20 and 28.16. South Africa 10 test match, he's absolutely been a cropper. He's just scored 100. New Zealand, he has not scored anything. And in England also, he has scored 100 and he has not been able to do much with an average of 29. So Sena country except Australia, he has not done well. And that only one tour. Only one tour, and we are putting him at the pedestal of God. I mean, nothing to take away from Pujara. That particular series, he was a superstar. There's no doubt about it. He took 1185 balls. He took half of the balls in his body. He became a god in that series. But my question to you is this data also doesn't lie. Is Cheteshwar Pujara really the superstar we are talking about? Over to you, Amit.
Look, first of all, I would like to say that Pujara has had a remarkable career defined by resilience, patience, and some unforgettable knocks. Uh, let's just today, I mean, explore the journey of India's, I would say, one of the best number three batter. Okay. Now, as you said, like he didn't have a great career outside India, apart from the 2018 Australia series, I think, where he scored 300s, 300s. I think he batted for over 1200 deliveries, if I'm not mistaken. And he actually broke Australia's will. That series alone cemented his name in the Indian cricket history. But apart from that, if you see all his dismissals in different circumstances, like let's say in South Africa, he didn't have a great record. In England, also he didn't have a great record. In fact, he also said that he had problems playing against Anderson in one of his interviews, and I mean it reflects on his career also. If you see abroad, except the Australia series, he struggled with English conditions with the swing. He got LBWs, he got ages. South Africa,
Sudeep,
I think he was
just a second. Sudeep, can you just magnify it bit? From 86? Can you just take it to 90%? This particular sheet, just a little magnification on this sheet. A little bit, yeah. Thanks. Can you go on the left side? Yeah, better. Yeah, thanks. Please, Amit, continue.
Yeah, so basically, as I was telling, like in South Africa, he was exposed by pace and bounce. If I remember correctly, Dale Steyn, then Vernon Philander, this kind of and Morne Morkel, they actually kind of had his number all the time, if I remember correctly, in South Africa. So his overall, let's say, if I have to talk his overseas performance, it was more or less average. And I mean, if you see his statistical average also, it was hovering around low to mid 30s. It's solid, I would say, in overseas condition, but not legendary. Now, if you say that, what's his legacy then, right? I mean, if I have to compare Pujara with some of our stalwarts, like let's say Rahul Dravid, he actually replaced Rahul Dravid at number three position. So if I have to compare based on the statistics and whatever I have seen over the years, he's not like all conditions giant like Dravid. Also, at the same time, he is not a stroke making genius like, let's say, someone like Lakshman, or even I would say someone like let's say Sehwag also at
Yeah,
times.
Ayul briefly touched on that point when he was talking about the dismissals. Pujara primarily, as you rightly said, is a front foot player. Unlike KL Rahul,
Right,
who plays back and he plays late, and that's why he was successful.
exactly,
Cheteshwar Pujara primarily throughout his career was a front foot player, primarily. Although he did shift
right.
back and he made this adjustment in that series. But as we can see clearly that he was a home giant, Amit. His record
Yes,
in
absolutely.
India is phenomenal. He scored 53 at an
Yeah, I was
average of
about to
50.
come to that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was about to come to it. See, I mean, his greatness is not in the spreadsheet columns that we are putting it here, but in the intangibles. If you see the time he batted, not just the runs scored. Uh, he used to be, I mean, this actually had the psychological effect on wearing down attacks like Australian. If you hear someone like Hazelwood, he said that he is happy not to see him around this time around when India put down on the last time. So his greatness also lied in like holding one end when wickets were tumbling around him. But overall, if you see at home, he was almost like a kind of a pillar. I mean, he was kind of next to wall because of his attritional batting. Abroad, I would say it's a kind of a what should I say? It's a kind of a mixed bag. Uh, Totally mortal in England and South Africa and New Zealand conditions.
Yeah,
Uh,
because we
Apart,
we measure greatness by Sena country performance, and you are right. If you consider Sena, I think Rahul Dravid is way ahead of him,
yeah,
way
way
ahead of
ahead,
him,
way ahead,
way ahead of
way
him.
ahead. But at the same time, if I let's say, I mean, for people like people, let's say, who are born in the early 2000s or late 1990s, for them, if I have to sum up in, let's say, one sentence or so, I would say that overall legacy what Pujara has left behind, he's a kind of a specialist, I would say, a kind of a border soldier in the Indian Test Army, not the general, but the one who actually dug trenches no one else wanted to, because he always used to bat for hours, not just think about scoring runs. So that's how I summed up his career. Over to you,
Thank you,
Rahul.
Amit. Very well said. Yeah, he's an attritional giant, and he scored his runs. He plowed his runs, but he was definitely not a Rahul Dravid, as this scorecard shows. Thank you, Amit. We're going to come back to you. Over to you, Sudeep.
Yeah.
We now go year by year performance, and my question to you is his entire career from 11 to 23, and of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, it tapered off in the last 2 years, which happens with all greats. His main 3 years were 16, 17, and 18. Absolutely impregnable years. In I think if you go by performance by year, you will see those 3 years. 16, he scored 836. 17, he scored 1140. Can you just magnify a bit,
Ye-
Sudeep?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A little
Mm,
bit, then we can be able to
Means,
see the numbers a little
yeah.
better.
Can you
Yeah,
see?
much
Can you
better.
see now?
No,
Yeah,
no, no, we can't. Better, better, better. So
yeah, yeah,
16, 17, 18 were his great 3 years. 18 was, of course, another great year. He had 35. The average was bad, but he scored about 300. I think how many hundreds? He scored three. So out of his 19, he scored 10 in these 3 years. And in the
mm,
remaining 8 years, he scored only 11 hundreds. Sorry, 900s. Eight
mhm.
years, 900s vis-a-vis the three. This happens with all players. Mahinda Ramanath had a 1 year in 82, 83 where he scored seven of his 1100s. And in his
Yeah,
entire career of 18 years, Mahinda Ramanath had been dropped so many times. So that's another different discussion we might have on him sometime later. But my question to you is, again, to an extent like Amit, can he be called a modern legend that we all are calling based on only 3 years performance? Because we really dissect his performance, we'll see out of his 12 years, he was only great 3 years. Can
yeah,
3 by 12 really translate into a modern greatness? Because Sunil Gavaskar had at least 10 out of his 17 years, which were outstanding.
yeah.
So 3 out of 12, is it a real hallmark of a greatness? Over to you, Sunil.
I think, yeah, it's a very pertinent question. The only thing is that I would like to look at it from a slightly different angle. The contribution of Pujara to the Indian Test cricket, lies in the fact that, by at the time when he made his debut, and in a span of 2 3 years, some of the greats, Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar, and Lakshman, they all retired. So there was a big vacuum in the Indian batting lineup, and at that time he stepped in and he provided, a stability in number three position, which is so vital, and his presence at the crease, it provided, a kind of a reassurance for the other batsmen, like Virat Kohli, who used to come two down to it provided some kind of flexibility to Kohli to play his natural game, because his presence in the crease was a big assurance, for everyone. It provided a lot of stability. You have to judge from that angle, also apart from the averages, which is a decent test average at 43.6. But we have to sum up the one statistics I would like to point out here. See, in he may have failed in the SENA countries, with the except the Australia, where he averages 47.28, England, New Zealand, and South Africa, all below 30. But what is interesting is, in Australia, he has, per innings, if you take the balls he faced, in Australia, it was 127 balls per innings. In England, it is 71 balls per innings. In New Zealand, 67. In South Africa, 71 balls per innings. So the amount of, the way he used to tire out the fast bowlers, that is a big thing.
That's
That
a
is,
point which Amit also raised briefly. Very true,
yeah,
because then we are looking at a man who used to, and who the bowlers never wanted to see, basically, like Hazelwood said, Amit rightly
yeah,
said.
yeah, because
So he was basically someone who tired out the bowlers while Kohli made merry on the other end,
and
which
he was
I
a,
think a lot of
very
us have seen.
slow accumulator of runs. He was not even
Correct.
at a time, after playing, maybe he used to get dismissed, for low scores, because he took used to take a very long time, to score the runs. So that in itself, so here you have to look at from a different angle. If you I agree that the average is not very, is not very good in Sena countries, but you have to also see that he has played a very, a sheet anchor role. That is a very important thing in abroad conditions. When somebody is staying at the wicket, it provides the other batsmen like Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma, some kind of, it motivates them, or some kind of assurance that, to play their
So you
natural
mean to
game.
say he was a miniature of Rahul Dravid, like a wall, a
No,
smaller
no, we
version
can't.
of a
Yeah, yeah.
wall?
Rahul Dravid was much more accomplished batsman. There is no comparison. I don't want to go into the comparison, because
Yeah,
Rahul Dravid is in a different class. So we cannot compare Pujara with Rahul Dravid. Because
correct.
Rahul Dravid's, if you look at his abroad
Hmm.
average is better than home average.
Home
Rahul
average, correct. One of
Dravid's,
the very few players in the world,
one of
correct.
the very
And
few players.
Rahul Dravid's stroke play and Rahul Dravid's overall domination of the game was a little more than
And
Pujara.
Rahul
Pujara
Dravid
was
used to,
probably,
yeah, he used to improvise. He had the power to improvise, whereas Pujara used to, has to play the sheet anchor role. He used to play. So
yeah,
that is a
because
big
Rahul
difference
Dravid has
between,
that memorable, that 148 at Wanderers, that 270 at Multan, that
yeah, yeah.
248 and Melbourne, that 190 at Wellington. I can recall these four wonderful innings he had. I mean, which almost took the game away from, took the game. Johannesburg, that
Took the
148
game.
was an
Yeah,
outstanding innings. So
yeah.
yeah, you're very right. So what is coming out from Amit and Sudeep is both that the statistics, although over a period of time do not lie, but they do not give the true picture also of the greatness of Pujara, because he held one end so that Kohli and other stroke players could bat and take India out of trouble. Very, very well made point, Sudeep. Thank you.
And one more thing, we must look at that after Pujara, we are still struggling to find a suitable replacement at number three.
Absolute. That will take for quite some time. Absolutely correct. Thank you, Sudeep. My question to Ayon is, on this note only, a home average of 52 and away average of 36. Again, a lot of contrasting average, a home and away average. And you have to go to Sudeep, the home and away team. This is after this. This is on the right side. Yeah. Performance by year, performance by country, performance by series, performance by, no. Last. You go last after that. Performance home and away. Yeah. This one. So a 52 average at home, I mean, 36 abroad, yet he's a superstar. He's a great. Why do you find is the dichotomy, and how do we close this gap of the greatness? Because 16 difference in average of home and away is really too much, a flat track bully. He gives an overall impression he gives us is a flat track bully. There's too much of a difference. So what is your take on this, Ayan? No
So,
worries.
so basically, if you look at the statistics a little more generically, India's performance in the SENA countries, if I look at it, after from the 2000s, so 2001 to 2010, India's performance in the SENA countries, they have won 7 tests, they have lost 10 tests, they have drawn 11 tests. Okay, this is my own
Correct.
statistics.
Correct.
Okay, and
Absolutely.
then from 2011 to 25, they have won 15, lost 36, and drawn 6. So here
That's a
I've put
sharp
in West
contrast.
Indies
Yeah.
also. I've put in West Indies as well. West Indies, if
Correct.
you take out, then you have 4 wins out. Okay, so that is
Okay.
even
Okay.
worse. 11 and
That's
36.
worse.
Okay.
Correct.
So
Correct.
now, again, that time during this 10-year period, 14-year period from 11 to 20, okay, 23, of course, Pujara retired with this about a dozen-year period. The mainstays from about 2014 were Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane, these 3 players, right?
Absolute.
Kohli, if you look at his stats, that also there's a difference, a dichotomy of about 14 or 15 runs between home and abroad. Okay, it is only Rahane who somehow has a slightly higher average batting outside. But the problem is his batting average itself is less than 40.
40.
So what happened was that India on the at large batted badly. And it is not fair to single out Pujara because he was the guy who took the burden of batting during this time. For me, Pujara, I mean, Amit also said about this attrition and all that, the way, for me, he was like the gatekeeper of a castle. The guy who took the entire responsibility of the batting fortress on his shoulders. So the reason that he actually has a poor average outside, I looked into the stats more carefully, is that the fourth innings average is about 30. That is
Yeah,
less.
that is
And
there
the
also. Yeah,
reason and the reason is
performance by
that
match. Yeah,
that is a bit less. But
yeah.
you see, Rahul, the times that he played and during this entire period of 12 years, the two really good, important series of note that India won were against Australia in 1819 and
And
again
21,
against
22,
Australia in
21, 20.
2021. 1819, as
Correct.
you know,
Yeah,
we probably played the weakest Australian batting lineup ever, right?
ever.
And
Correct.
that again was completely due to the fact that Pujara scored those 300s, right? He completely bore the brunt of batting in that win as well. In 2021, after India were dismissed for 36, its worst ever test score, the next three, and the superstar captain went home. Next three tests, India won two, drew one. That prompted Sunil Gavaskar to say that this has been India's greatest test victory abroad after the victories in 71. The famous victories in 71 against the Windies and England. He actually said on live on TV, I heard him say that this is the India's greatest victory after 2021, after 71, after 50 years. Gavaskar saying this, imagine. And who was the real gatekeeper there? Nobody else but Chiteshwar Pujara. In Sydney, 77 he scored in the second innings. And remember, here, both at Sydney and Brisbane, it was Pujara's fantastic, out of the world, self almost, he put his body, self harming, I might say. He put in his body in the way of Pat Cummins and Stark at Brisbane because there were two fielders close to the bat. The pitch was uneven. Gabba has been Australia's fort, Gabatoa. They hadn't lost for a very long time, and he was not taking chances of having the bat close to the ball because you could not predict if the ball would jump that 6 inches of extra and therefore lob at 145. You're bowling at Stark bowls at 150 almost, right? He didn't bowl well, I must say, but Cummins was great. Hazelwood was very good, and he just put his body between India and Australia. He batted in the Brisbane Test. He set the ground for Pant. He saw the ball, sort of, the leather. So he stripped the sheen out of the leather,
So,
201
then
balls,
what is
right?
coming out in the last 25-minute discussion is that perhaps for the first or second time in history, for such a long career, statistics may not be saying the right thing.
One more important thing, Rahul, I would like to add here. Again, I did my own stats. I was looking at India's average opening batsman, opening partnerships in the period that Dravid played. Majority, I mean, 2001 to 2010, and the opening partnerships from 2011. Do you know the drop? When Dravid played, the average opening batsman, the opening partnerships, that was when Sehwag was there. Of course, other partners changed. We had different players, Gambhir, Chopra, etc., etc. But the average was actually even abroad. It is about close to 40, 38 or something. That becomes 28. 28 when Pujara plays. 10 to 12 run difference. That means you can imagine that Pujara comes into bat when the ball is much more newer. When the pitches actually are much more. See, nowadays we have only result oriented pitches. Abroad, we do not have flat tracks. And remember, there is DRS. If you get out, you are out. Dravid, of course, it may be that you are not out in, for example, at Sydney, both Saurav and Rahul Dravid were
Yeah,
given out
given
terribly
out.
by
Yeah,
Bucknor and
very,
Bowley.
very terrible,
India
terrible,
lost
terrible.
because of that. India
Yeah,
lost because
terrible.
of that. But remember two things: opening partnerships actually became worse when Pujara batted. He had to bear the brunt of the attack with
So
the new
what
ball.
what you were saying, Ayan, is
Things are not very easy.
like Amit, and you said, but I have only one question, Amit, Ayan, before I let you go. the same thing also was with, of course, Rahul Dravid had the advantage of Sachin Tendulkar, Saurav Ganguly, VVS Lakshman,
Yes,
Virendra Sehwag.
yes,
Probably the
absolutely.
greatest middle order in the history of the game. Probably the
Yes,
greatest middle order of the Fab
at least
Four
in India.
ever. In
At
India
least
and
in
abroad
India.
also. Yeah,
Yes.
the average, the number of century and the total runs, I guess, in the history of the game, this Fab Four would stand out. But do we really monumentalize Pujara's, crystallize his performance the way we are doing? I mean, is it a fair assessment to say that he was a monumental great?
What
Because
I
all
can
this,
say,
yeah,
Rahul, is when Pujara played, India won abroad. That is it.
correct.
If
And
Pujara
when,
did not play, India lost.
and that statistics is also there when he batted when
Absolutely.
India lost it went down to 25. For him, it was very
Yes.
20, which is
So
going to
when
come down.
so the dependency, we look at it by dependence. See, when Bangladesh was playing England, Pakistan, I remember there was a cricket commentary I was hearing that those days, whatever happened, I used to listen. All India Radio. I think this Afzal Ali or somebody was playing, and Imran was at his peak. This was around 87, 86, 87, and this commentator was getting crazy because this guy hit a four of Imran. Two fours, and he was sort of saying that this is the best guy in the world. Of course, next ball he was bowled. But see,
Thank
it is
you.
the reliance. So for India during the last 10 years, the reliance on Pujara was what stood out. If Pujara did not bat, if he failed, almost inevitably India lost abroad.
Right. Thank you, Anand, so much. Moving to Amit. Amit, I'll club the two questions for you. One is, which we were going to come to, is that Pujara's averages in India, which won or lost, are very, very different. Sudip, can you go to the last slide? Performance by match result. The performance by, yeah. So in performances where India lost, as Anand rightly pointed, he's 27. When India wins, it is 50, whether home or abroad. So why is this huge difference? This means that when India lost, Pujara was a non-performer. Hold on. So, and when India won, and this was not the case when Rahul Dravid played. And India, without Dravid performing, also there have been times when India has been bailed out by Lakshman or Saurabh. So there's a huge stark difference when Pujara plays and India wins, and Pujara doesn't play and India doesn't win. So what do you think is the question? According to you, is the question why was he non-performer when India lost? Because Ayan has partially answered that because the attritional problem of India's batting post the Fab Four. And my next question is, of course, this is a sign of question. Do you think that he lives behind the legacy for which we are discussing? Is he the true great number three behind Rahul Dravid? So one, when India lost, why was he so poor? And second, is he truly a great number three, irrespective of his stats? Over to you, Amit.
See, sometimes stats don't tell you everything, right? I mean, Pujara's career shows that his runs were more impact driven. So when he succeeded, India usually succeeded. His batting was not only about just the numbers, which we are talking about here. See, he has played in total 103 test matches. Out of it, I think 52 he played away from home and only 51 in home. Okay. So it is just not about the numbers, but about shaping the results also. You have to look at in this way. So coming back to your question, I mean, why the performance dipped so much when India lost? So let's not put it in this way. I mean, rather let's have it in this way: like when Pujara succeeded, India succeeded. When
Yeah.
Pujara didn't succeed, India also lost. So
So
that actually
you mean to say like that India's dependence on Pujara was more of India's dependence than Dravid. So India was heavily dependent on Pujara during that time
ex-
rather than that
ex-
previous time.
exactly. So see, what happened? I mean, prior to Rohit Sharma, India were struggling to find a good opener. So invariably, Pujara used to come very early, right? I mean, he didn't get as Ayanda was mentioning. Like Pujara had to kind of shelter our middle order for, let's say, someone like Virat Kohli or Rahane to kind of showcase their prowess. So that is something that will again go in favor of Pujara. So India needed Pujara to kind of play the way he used to. So I'll just not go with the numbers only. I mean here I would rather say Pujara was a very impactful player. Maybe his strike rate was low, but yet those strike rate and just weathering the storm of the new ball actually helped India in paving out many such victories. That is something that I will always think about. Now, coming back to your second question, like the second question was related to the I mean,
Yeah,
his
the second
series.
question is what legacy does he leave behind as a player and as a number three? Do you think he's a real great or is he a lesser mortal who is amplified to be a
Yeah.
great?
So
Sometimes,
before,
like,
yes,
see, I'll give you a perfect example. Graham Hick. Iron would be more because me and more at the same time. Graham Hick, when he started playing in the England county after he migrated from Zimbabwe, everyone said he's the next Don Bradman. I think he played about 60 test matches, but he scored his average was less than 35 when he finished off. So he was a falter. And there have been many players in the history of the game who have been touted as Bradman but have fallen badly. Do you think that Cheteshwar Pujara, of course, 7,000 run and 100 test matches is not a matter of joke, but do you think he leaves a legacy of one of the greats of the game, not only India? Do you think his legacy is one of the greats, or do you think he's a flat track bully, as the numbers suggest?
no, he
52
is not.
average at home.
No, I would rather, I mean, before coming to the final verdict, I would say that, I mean, there are a couple of things that I would like to highlight here. One was his technique versus moving ball, especially against England, South Africa, and New Zealand. This
That's a
no one,
good point. Yeah.
that no one talked about. Like Pujara, I mean, see, whatever cricket I have played or whatever I understand about the game, Pujara has a very, or let's say, he had a very bottom hand dominant compact technique designed for subcontinent pitches. So when he used to play spin, he used to kind of weather the kind of spin, and he could have come down the track and
I
negated
think
that spin.
Ion pointed that in the beginning. That is one of the reasons his performance against spin was a little iffy. And his performance against pace bowling was really good because his bottom hand he was a bottom handed player. So his pace bowling attack,
Yes,
he was a very, very good player against a quality fast bowling, which is required at
quality
number
first.
three.
Yes, yes. But having said that, in England, if you see his bat used to come down slightly across the line of the ball. See, if you talk about Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, they actually made him made him his money in some of the series. So making him more LBW and edge prone against the leg swing. In
Yeah.
South Africa, what happened? The extra bounce exposed his static backlift. If you see now, like the way he used to bat, he used to had a very kind of static kind of a backlift and leading to bold or kind of caught behind these kind of dismissals. And one more point, if I talk about some of the centuries that he scored against India at home, where his average actually has gone up beyond 50, how he so if you see some of the hundreds, I was just looking through the stats and I got to see that yes, he has five centuries against England, but
Correct. At
many
home.
of them
At
were in
home.
dead rubbers at home. Yeah,
Absolutely.
at home. But
Yeah.
many were those things in the dead rubbers or when India was already behind. So they didn't always change the series outcomes, unlike his knock in Australia, especially in the 2018 series. So his hundreds came with cluster of failures, and then again hurting his kind of a consistency. So now coming back to the final verdict. So what I think, see, according to me, he is not a one-track horse because his home record is exceptional, and he did have
No,
good.
my
I
question was, is he a flat track bully? Tremendous at home, outside result, So the difference was, which Ion, that was the question for Ion actually. Do you think he is an all-time great in all surface? That's the question I asked you. Is he an all-time great in all surface,
I
home and abroad?
I would, yeah, I would say he's a situational great, Like at home, he was an anchor, a wall, and a thorough match winner. In Australia, a warrior who scripted one of India's greatest win away in 2018 and in
Right.
also in 2021. In
Yeah.
England and South Africa, he was little vulnerable, often found
South Africa, his
technically.
performance is very poor. Given 10 test matches, his performance in South Africa was really poor.
Yes.
So,
So
Rahul, I
you know
wanted
what
to
I mean.
add something after Amit finishes here. We have
Yeah, yeah,
missed out a
sure.
point. So, Amit, you finish, then I'll talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
something.
Amit will
Yes,
finish off
yeah,
now.
I
Yeah.
just have, just one point before I finish off. Like his legacy, I think it's somewhat I feel a little lopsided. Immortalized by one series or two series in Australia,
I personally
respected
felt
for
that.
his respected for his grit and determination to kind of weather out storm and kind of handling the new ball.
So
But
in one word,
statistically,
in one word, Amit, did he punch above his weight? Was he a player like Ravi Shastri? A lot of limitations, punched hugely above his weight. Do you think he's a player who punched above his weight?
no. He actually performed as per expectations. When I saw him for the first time, I didn't feel like he was a great, but he did perform. Actually, playing 100
Because
test matches for
he came
India.
to the side against Australia with Ishant, if you remember, the last wicket partnership,
Ye-
72 not out, which he
exactly.
bailed India out in that very, very famous test in
You
Ahmedabad.
know, in one of the test matches in 2017, I think in Bangalore, India were struggling to against Australia. He scored 92 in Bangalore on a very kind of a wearing pitch, turning pitch, and Nathan Lyon and that guy Stephen O'Keefe. Those guys were bowling like anything. I mean, any superstar. And he bailed India out of trouble, and India went on to win the series in 2017 in India. So those kind of knocks, I will not say that can happen overnight. I mean, you have to be technically good and equipped to play those on those kind of pitches. So I would not say he's kind of great. Rather, I would say he's a situational great, and by his grit and determination, he could perform the way he could over a long period of time and play 103 test matches for India. That's
Thank you,
something I
Amit.
would say.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah,
before I move to Sudip,
I just wanted to add up something very important here, which we missed out during his dismissal dissection. So Pujara has been run out 9 times, which is the most for any top order batsman for India ever. And if I can, I remember the only time that I saw Pujara bat was at the Eden in the 2012 Test against England, where it was one of the worst surrenders of Indian batting I've ever seen on not too sort of a pretty docile track. There, Gambhir and Sehwag were playing well, and then Pujara came in. I think he played, I think number 3 or something. And he played an exquisite bowler's back drive against Anderson. I remember there was no sound of the ball. There was a cut sound. Fantastic timing. His batting I really loved. And then I think Gambhir gave a bad call and he was run out. What was important, however, what I wanted to point out, Rahul, 2018, he has the rare distinction at Centurion of being run out in both innings. And
yeah,
the
I know that. Yeah.
reason was that there was a sudden message from the team management that time that there are some players who are not being able to go by the way the team wants to play. This was this Indian version of buzzball, something which I feel is mired in stupidity, which is not, something which is, which absolutely has you react as per the situational demand, which is the strange one-track set of mindset where you play with the same approach irrespective of what the situation of the match is. And there were sudden instructions. I think the the captain, coach, both said that India needs to play a certain manner. There are some people who are not playing as per the team's plan, which I thought was a ridiculous kind of a statement. And Pujara was in the best form of his life. And I think he suddenly wanted to go with what the team said, and he was run out for 0 because he wanted to go for a non-existing second run. And I think the team did not exploit him in the way that they should have. And that series, of course, India lost. And that was part of India's disastrous performances. I always felt that captaincy was a big issue in India once Saurav retired and Dravid of Kumble, of course, they did a fairly good job. But Dhoni from
I
11
think, yeah,
was really...
Dhoni's overseas
Even
records,
Kohli,
of course.
Kohli. Overseas, he has
Kohli's
one series.
record, I
Yes,
think
he
Kohli's
won
overseas
one
was a little
series.
better.
His one
Yeah,
is little better. Yes, but nowhere close to what Saurav or somebody was, right? I mean,
yeah, obviously.
2018-19 victory, that again, I say, if Australia had Stephen Smith and Warner, things would have been probably different.
Probably
Anyway,
different.
that's something, and that was
Yeah,
basically because of Pujara's abilities. But
correct.
this I remember should be pointed out because he sacrificed his wicket. I think because there was this pressure from the team management that they wanted a certain manner of playing, which I did not agree with then, and that really resulted in India losing the series again. This has to be pointed out. That
Yeah,
time he
thank
was
you.
in the best form of his career.
Yeah, thanks. Sudeep, the final 2 questions with you. Is Cheteshwar Pujara a true successor filling into the boots of Rahul Dravid? Given a condition that India has had 2 super one-down players, Paulie Umrigar in the 50s and, of course, Mahendra Ramannath, do you think is really a true successor? Or there is a challenger you see? Because we have watched Mahendra Ramannath in our childhood and we have read about Paulie Umrigar also. So what is your
Yeah.
take on Cheteshwar Pujara? And it's a part of a legacy question. Is he truly, as we finish off, I'll close off our discussion, is he truly a successor to Rahul Dravid? We have found out that we may call him a poor man's Rahul Dravid, but is he truly a successor to Rahul Dravid? Yes or no? And what do you think is his position in Indian cricket at number 3? With Mahendra Ramannath, Paulie Umrigar, and a lot of other good number 3 players also, but primarily these 2.
Yeah.
And I think
If you
Mohammad Azharuddin also was number three at some point of time
at
for a
some
certain
point,
period of
No,
time.
Vengsarkar,
because
Dilip Vengsarkar.
Vengsakar,
Dilip
yeah, Dilip
I
Vengsarkar.
forgot
Vengsakar, yeah.
Vengsarkar.
Yeah,
Since you
but
mentioned,
Vengsarkar's again as a home was a flat track bully, primarily except the 300s at Lords. His performance overseas does not inspire a lot of confidence of the
England,
1600s.
he was great. England, he
He
was
was
really
great
good.
again, like
Very good.
Pujara. So, what is your take to the first question? Is he real, true, great that we are discussing after Rahul Dravid in that position? Because his
yeah,
predecessor was perhaps one of the greatest player ever to have played the game, Rahul Dravid. So,
yeah,
is he a true successor, one or two? And then, what is his position in Indian history as a number three?
yeah. As a number three, he will be definitely come after Rahul Dravid, Cheteshwar Pujara, because his contribution cannot be undermined. And coming to Mohinder Amarnath, which you mentioned, uh, actually both have the almost similar batting averages. If you go by the statistics. Mohinder was
Yeah,
42.5 and whereas
five,
Pujara is 43.6. One
43,
particular
16.
problem was Mohinder Amarnath, where there were a couple of problems. He was dropped for a long period of time.
Long
And
period of time, correct.
and number two was,
Mahindra's career was not as fluent as Pujara. He
yeah,
was dropped eight
and
times. So,
what was
long,
another
long drop.
problem I found with Mahinder Amarnath was, he was very inconsistent. Mane, he was brilliant in patches, and then
Yes.
suddenly he used to go off all of a sudden. And
Yeah,
mane,
78, 79, and 82, 83. This 2.5 years, probably, they was the best batsman, which
if you
everyone said.
remember, against West Indies in the series,
Correct.
he scored one run in 5 innings. So
Five
that was
innings.
his
And then
consistency.
consistency. Yes. Mahendra
So
Ramannath has been always a major Frank Sinatra of Indian cricket. He never
yeah,
knew when he would be dropped.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, true. What is Pujara's stay in Indian cricket history? Legacy. What is the legacy?
He certainly leaves behind a legacy because after Dravid, he was one of the pillars of the Indian batting lineup. Because there was a big vacuum, which I mentioned earlier in the show, that after Sachin Tendulkar, Lakshman, Sehwag, and Dravid, all of them retired in a span of 2-3 years, and there was a big vacuum. There was Rahane was there, Virat Kohli was there, but there was somebody had to step in at number three, which is such a vital position in any batting lineup. Number three is one of the most vital because it provides stability and for the rest of the batsmen to follow. So somebody has to hold the ground, and I think he did it. His records may not be very impressive in abroad, but actually, if you, as I mentioned also, he was very successful in weathering the early storm, the fast bowlers who were very fresh at that, in the beginning of the innings. And as Oyon pointed out, the opening partnership, was only 28, after Kohli, after Dravid left. So he had come very early in the innings and faced the fast bowlers. And at least he could took the shine of the new ball to a great extent. So in this way, I would say that he was certainly one of the greats in number three. He will be after Dravid. He was the best, in number three position, because we still don't have a stable number three at the moment. Last 2-3 years he's not playing, Pujara, but we have not found a stable number three so far. So that way, I think uh, uh,
So we
he
more or less conclude that, as Amit said, is an attritional giant, and
only
not
thing is
although
that he
not
could not the kind of technique he possessed. He could not live up to his potential fully. I would sum it up
yeah,
this way.
correct. So he basically was. We can't call him a poor man's Dravid, but he was certainly
No,
the next best which India could offer after Dravid,
after
given
Dravid,
all the
yeah,
details and which we discussed also.
he was
So coming to the
technically the
last,
most proficient, one of the most proficient
I
batsmen
think
after
no,
Dravid.
but
Yeah,
this has been discussed by a lot of experts. Probably technically also Dravid was a notch higher than him.
no, no, Dravid is a different class.
because
I'm saying
because the
after
spin,
Dravid.
yeah, because the spin ability.
And
Dravid was very very
You
far
will
superior.
find Indians, you will find, always have all the most of the batsmen, they have a weakness against the incoming ball, whether it is spin or it is pace.
Correct, right.
Because
So the
Imran
last
Khan
questions, yeah,
used to exploit this weakness of Indian batsmen.
yeah, because he had huge banana in swingers,
He has
which
a
he
indipper, the indipper
the
of
Indipar.
it. Yeah.
Correct, very true. So my last question, Sudeep, to you before we close off is: any batsman is measured, and his greatness is measured by the number of runs he scores when a team chases on the fourth innings. If we go to that slide, match-wise performance, you will see that Pujara's performance is performance by match result. No, not fourth innings. Yeah, match performance. You will see in the fourth innings, which Ayan pointed out, he's 30. So when India
Yeah.
bats second to win, to chase, and in it's a fourth innings, his average is 30. Whereas when he bats first and third, his average is 50 almost. So when he is without pressure, first day of a test match, he's averaging 50. Even when he's batting first and it is the second innings, his average is 45. When he's batting third, it still is 42. But when he's chasing, in chasing cause is 30. So this statistics once again is a not a statistics we would like to see, because we have been
I
discussing that he's a
think,
great.
yeah,
So
but if
what is your
you,
take? What is
I
your take
think,
that when India chased, because in the fourth innings, if we take out data, Rahul Dravid was perhaps miles ahead. Even he was better than Sachin Tendulkar in chases. So he's one of the greats for that reason also. So at 30 average as the fourth innings chase, do you think that Chandrasekhar Pujaraa is really a great? Because this statistic clearly tells that he was not a good chaser. What's
he
your
was
take
not
on
a good
this?
chaser, and you will find that, see, it's not, I don't think it is proper to blame Pujara alone, because India's fourth innings record has been very dismal over the years. If you check, it's not just Pujara. Most of the batsmen, with very rare exceptions, they don't have a very good performance, except maybe Dravid or couple of other batsmen like Tendulkar. But Tendulkar is also not very good in the fourth. If I remember, I think he averages in the 40s only in the fourth
Yeah,
innings.
Dravid is, I think, ahead of Tendulkar. Dravid and Lakshman
Dravid is
both, I
ahead
think.
of India, but this is a common phenomenon because Indians are very poor, while trying to save the test match or chasing, in the fourth innings. Their record is not very good. It's a common, it's a very common phenomenon with India, and
Mhm.
Pujara, yeah, maybe, there are, lot of factors, which could have played, this behind this very poor average. Uh, it's very difficult to say at the moment what exactly could be the reason, because it is from the average, it is evident that he could not perform well, and most of the time, I think the in the fourth innings Indian total has not been very good.
Well, no,
Indian.
if we had time, we might have delved into the
So
details of fourth innings.
I wanted to just add something here because this is a
Yeah,
very good point. So one thing I think we should realize, Sudeep, Rahul, Amit, all of us, is that when Dravid batted in the fourth innings, by the way, even Rahul Dravid, I'm looking at the stat now, his fourth innings, last innings average is 11 runs short, smaller than his actual average. His average in fourth innings is 41. His actual batting average is 52. So
52.31. Yeah.
52.3 is 11 runs short. But
Yeah.
remember again, Rahul, when Dravid batted, he had it in his mind that there were others who could stand in if he got out. When Pujara batted, he knew that he out means the match was over. Because we had no all-rounders. The tail started from 7. In the last 10 years almost, our tail has basically started from number 8 or 9. Pujara batted with that knowledge that if he got out, the fort was, surrendered. Dravid had Sachin and Lakshman, the best ever. By the way, Mohinder Amarnath, he's very interesting also. His fourth innings actually is highest of all three. But
Correct.
remarkably, his average abroad is 60, and his average at home is 30,
Yeah.
which is
Mohinder has
strange.
been one of the very, very
It's a
weird
conundrum. It's a conundrum.
conundrum.
You're averaging 30 runs more. If I'm not wrong,
Correct.
it is, I think, around 60. At home, it is 30.
No, we
It
will
might be
do a show
52
on
or
Amarnath.
53.
Definitely. We need to
But
do a
but
show
see,
on
for
Mohinder Amarnath.
Pujara, you have to remember when he batted, he knew that he was the guy. If he fell, then the team would 90% lose. When Dravid batted, there were three more solid batters who could actually
No,
still
but
pull out the match.
When Pujara was there, Kohli and Rahane was also at their peak. So what
Yeah,
did
yeah.
they do?
Kohli in fourth innings, you look at his average, yeah. You look at his average. Rahane was somewhat okay. Rahane actually has a, but
So
even Rahane
Kohli
was missing.
again is a
Kohli is a,
misguided
come
missile.
on. For
Misguided missile
test
on a fourth
matches,
innings.
fourth innings, no. I would rely much more on Pujara than I would rely on Kohli.
Yeah,
Of course, on flat
Kohli, I
tracks,
think I
it's
was never,
different.
never, never a test player. I mean, after the
Never. I mean, not
1911
in that class. See, if you
class.
really ask me whether Pujara would come in India's top 11, I don't think he would.
No, he'll
top
not.
11 forever, but I think I
Ever
would
no. He'll never.
certainly
With
keep him
Rahul
as
Dravid there,
standby.
will
Yes,
not
he
fail.
would come.
Yeah.
Of course, Dravid would come.
Yeah,
But
I think
I would keep him in the 18 or something.
yeah, Rahul Dravid, Sachin, Lakshman, very difficult for anyone else to walk in
Yeah,
that middle order.
Gavaskar and all. Yeah, obviously.
Gavaskar,
That team is difficult. I mean, you start with
very
that.
difficult.
Even
India's
Amarnath wouldn't get a chance.
no, Amarnath don't get a chance. Also, he will be under the reserves maybe.
But I think we have to give it to Pujara that he was the guy who fought when India's batting has probably been one of the worst in its performances
Yeah,
abroad
that is
for a
why the
very long
statistics
time.
is not
Since the
statistics is not
80s.
true.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm just saying. Since the 80s, 90s, India has not performed, as I told you, 15 wins and 36 losses.
He
That is
basically
probably
was
the
the
worst
guy which
performance
Amit
in
said.
India's
He
history.
took the shine of the ball off.
Yes.
He took the shine. He took the balls in the body so that the other batsmen could flourish.
Yes.
So he
Do
was
you
an
see?
attritional player.
See, Australia, you see Pant's two big innings. I mean, especially at Brisbane.
Brisbane,
That was
Brisbane.
totally set up by Pujara.
Pujara,
Because
absolute,
he wore
absolute.
the leather out of the ball, right? And then Pant came and hit merrily.
No, the value of Cheteshwar Pujara is in his immortality to sail and bail out India. Then that
See,
is what
if you really
we
ask me,
finish off.
the
Yeah.
way we depended on Rahul Dravid,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
in the last 10 years, we depended similarly on Pujara.
On
That is
Pujara.
where the resemblance is. In terms of
Absolute.
dependence.
Absolute. True. Very true.
But he could not. He could never reach Rahul's heights.
Of course,
That's the
No,
he could
of
not.
course.
He could not. There are
That's
many
what I'm
factors.
saying.
Look,
Yeah,
that is-
yeah.
There are many factors. I think the psychological factor is also. You cannot really dismiss those
I think
run-outs.
there are
You
two
cannot
things which
dismiss.
comes out of the discussion that Pujara was an attritional giant, rightly pointed by Amit. Rahul, Cheteshwar Pujara is very great. Is a wonderful player. I think one of the greats of the game. That is now more we understand. As of course, the transition happens. That Sudeep rightly said that we have to now go back and forth in time to find a player who can represent. I am sure when Dravid went out, Pujara came in, and we'll have someone at 3. I don't know where Sai Sudarshan fits in. I have a foresight that Shubman Gill might go into number 3. Might. There's a
I
possibility
don't
that
see
he
his
might.
defense to be that robust. I don't see his defense to be
True.
that
But
robust.
at 4, Gill, I don't think for a long period of time,
I mean,
don't
we
think
don't
Gill
have
will.
anybody, frankly speaking. We don't
Yeah.
have. We need an attritional character at 3.
Correct. So in the long run, I think Shubman Gill at 1 down is what I'm looking at.
Or
And
he
that
might
leaves
go
the
back
number.
as an opener,
He
once
has a-
KL
Yeah,
Rahul retires.
Yeah, absolute. There is a possibility. With Gautam Gambhir as a coach, KL Rahul, Ravindra Jadeja, both are in, under some.
Rahul, I don't think they will dare drop. I don't think they will
Now
dare
they
drop
cannot. Now
Rahul.
they
They
cannot.
cannot.
They definitely.
Just cannot.
Yeah. But then, thank you, gentlemen. We had a wonderful discussion, as obvious as before. The main point that we had was that Cheteshwar Pujara is not a poor man's Rahul Dravid, but definitely was one of the greats India has produced. His numbers don't do justice to the discussions that he saviors, and he is definitely a better player than his numbers. He was not a flat track bully also, and his numbers in Sena countries also do not defy and do not really justify the greatness that he had, because his numbers are really very different, except Australia. It will be fair to say that Cheteshwar Pujara was an outstanding attritional guy who took the cherry out of the equation so that others could play. The stroke players like Rahane and Kohli play. And also the fact which Aaron pointed out that Cheteshwar Pujara played at a time when India's batting was a very, very fragile looking, depleted batting between 11 to 23. With in his initial years, Suresh Raina, Yuvraj Singh, both not a very dependable number 6. And coming to the end of his life, there were players. It was a pick and choose who would bat at number 6. Rishabh Pant came at 6 to cover up the tail. So he batted in a very uncertain period, highlighted by a wonderful 16, 17 and 18, culminating in that 18 series. But I think Indian cricket would remember Cheteshwar Pujara as a gallant servant and a wonderful player who never shied away from work and responsibility and just grafted his runs. He was more of a grafter. And I think in that sense, we would have to give it to him that he was one of the finest India's ever produced, because I think he punched above his weight, definitely. Because he had limitations. He had a bottom-handed limitation, which Amit pointed out. His front foot play limited his play against the spins also. Unlike KL Rahul, he did not go much on his back foot. But overall, I think his 7,000 runs each run was worth his gold. And I think Indian cricket will really, really cherish the long time that he was with us, and it will miss. It will be a difficult shoe to fill up. He was an extraordinary player of his times. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. On that note, we will sign off today, and we'll be back soon with another episode very soon. Today was dedicated to one of the India's middle order greats, Cheteshwar Pujara. Thank you. Good night.